Warning: the following episode may contain adult themes and language and may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
This was the $70,000 murder weapon, say police, when rage and passion collided on a hot Texas night last July. The charge, murder by Mercedes. Clara Harris, a former Colombian beauty queen and mother of twins, was behind the wheel, now accused of killing her husband with the car. She stood as the murder indictment was read, then said softly, "Not guilty." Clara, a dentist, and her husband David Harris, an orthodontist, were married a decade ago on Valentine's Day. The marriage turned sour when David had an affair with his receptionist. Clara came here to Blue Moon Investigations.
Clara Harris hired us to follow her husband.
A private eye tailed David Harris and his lover to this Houston hotel. Clara showed up and lured them to the lobby. There, witnesses say Clara ripped the blouse off the other woman. David and his mistress fled into the parking lot. Prosecutors say Mrs. Harris pointed her silver Mercedes at her husband. The impact knocked him 25 feet. Then, witnesses said she wheeled around and ran over him on the ground, and turned and ran over him again, then whipped around and ran over him a third time. Afterwards, Mrs. Harris said it was an accident. An accident at the same hotel where the Harrises hosted their wedding reception, and where David Harris met his lover that night.
I'm sorry. It wasn't my fault. You should have watched where you were going.
Can I tell you, I am not fond of cremations. I just don't like the idea of someone spending eternity in something the size of a motel ice bucket.
911, what is your emergency?
A man in my house.
Welcome to Texas True Terrors Podcast. Each episode, we compare a true crime from Texas and compare it to the based on a true story movie.
I'm Maria, and I know the true story but haven't seen the movie.
I'm Craig, and I've seen the movie and know nothing about the real story. In this episode, we will discuss the movie Suburban Madness, based on the real-life events of Clara and David Harris.
All right, so it is a nice Saturday. Wait, it's Friday, right?
Yeah, it's Friday.
It's a Friday evening in
Gotta get down on Friday.
Fort Worth, Texas. This takes place, the actual crime takes place in Nassau Bay, Texas, which is pretty close to Houston, pretty much on the outskirts. What I'll do is just go over a little of the information, and I'm not trying to be like Small Town Murder. I heard them make some kind of mention about other podcasts trying to be like them, and we're not even going to come close to that. We're just giving you a little snippet of the town. Nassau Bay has a population of only about 4,000 people. It was established as a Spirit of 1776 ranch by Colonel Raymond Pearson in 1972. It was sold to developers in 1962 who planned this exclusive residential and commercial area adjacent to NASA's Johnson Space Center. Back in 1962, this development cost $49 million. Not sure what that is today in today's money. It's a freaking lot of money.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was looking this information up, there were headlines in the Houston Post that read, quote, $49 million Space City, because they were just trying to get an area built for the people that were going to work at NASA. And the name was chosen by the developers because of the tropical feeling it generated, Nassau and Nassau Bay.
Where the pirates come from.
Right. It's located in Harris County and borders the southeastern edge of Houston in the Clear Lake area near Galveston Bay. And it's only about 1.7 square miles, which is about 4.4 square kilometers. And the demographics, it is 89% white. There's 3% Asian, 2% multiracial, 1% African American, and 1% other races.
Yeah, so not very diverse.
No, not really. And I don't know if I would expect it to be. It says the median household income was $57,000, and the national average is $56,000. So, I mean, I guess they're doing pretty good. But when I was looking at some of the houses around there, they were quite expensive because, I mean, they're right on the water.
Yeah. And in the movie, everything was really extravagant.
Oh, right.
They had a big badass house, and
So the movie today that we're covering is Suburban Madness, and Craig got to watch this awesome movie.
oh, it was the best. Oh, except it wasn't.
I saw a little clip, and I was just like, oh my God, Craig's going to hate me for making him watch this movie. Yeah.
I don't hate you, but I hate whoever made this movie.
Right.
Suburban Madness was released October 3rd, 2004 on Lifetime. It was filmed in Thornhill, Ontario, Canada.
Again with the Canada?
It has something to do with tax breaks, I believe.
I thought Texas had tax breaks. That's
They
why
do,
all these
but
businesses come here. What's up with that?
Canada has crazy tax breaks.
As far
and-
as filming?
Yeah, as far as filming, everything is filmed in Canada just because it's so much cheaper to do there.
Yeah, I've noticed like on Investigation Discovery that there are lots of their shows are either filmed in Canada or Australia.
Yeah,
Which
and
very
if you
strange.
notice, if you look in movies a lot, one of the main reasons you can tell is if you look at street signs in the city, you can tell that they're not American street signs; they're Canadian.
Gotcha.
And that's a pretty big giveaway that I've seen.
That's just so odd to me that they, film these. I don't know. It's in Texas. You're pretty far away from Canada.
Yeah. About Suburban Madness, it's not just based on a true story. It's something I have never heard or seen before. It is based on the article written by Skip Hollandsworth, which originally appeared in Texas Monthly. That was exactly what it said.
I think I know that guy. I think he's done some stuff on Investigation Discovery from
Wow.
some of the stuff that he's written. Yeah.
But yeah, I was like,
That is kind of strange, though.
like not based on a true story, but based on an article.
It's based on an article.
Like I've never seen that ever.
That is,
in a
yeah,
movie
that's
before.
really weird.
It was directed by Robert Dornhelm, he's basically Lifetime's go-to director, I think. I mean, they've got Rudy, the Rudy Giuliani story with James Woods as Rudy Giuliani.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
They've got RFK about Robert Kennedy.
Was that a Lifetime movie, too? I don't think it was.
I don't remember, but yeah. And then there's Fatal Deception, Miss Lee
God.
Harvey Oswald with Helena Bonham Carter.
I think she's, even though she's been in some of the Tim Burton movies, is that her?
Yeah.
I think she's been in a lot of Lifetime movies.
I think she's
too.
married to Tim Burton, actually.
I think she is, too.
Yeah. So our cast today is, how do you pronounce it? Sela Ward? Sela Ward?
Sela, yeah.
Sela? Okay.
Mhm.
Sela Ward, who plays Bobbie Basha, who is the private detective that investigated the...
Oh, is that how you say it? I just saw it written and I thought it was Baca. So.
No, it's Bobbie Basha.
Okay.
That's how they pronounce it in the movie, at
Awesome.
least. Sela Ward, you might know her from The Fugitive or The Day After Tomorrow.
Or some other Lifetime movies.
Possibly, but most recently, and another movie that I would give a hard pass on is Independence Day Resurgent. Just don't watch it. Just don't. It's bad. If you like Independence Day, just watch Independence Day because that's all you need.
Yeah, I can't remember if I saw that. I think we did, but I'm not sure. I don't remember.
We've got Elizabeth Pena, who plays Clara Harris. You might know her from Rush Hour, The Incredibles, and La Bamba.
La Bamba. Oh, yeah.
With
wait, was she...
Lou Diamond Phillips? Is
She
that
was,
what
was
it
it she his mom? She played...
I cannot remember. I don't know that
I
I've
think
seen
so.
it, but
Oh my God, you have to see that movie. You are missing out if you have not seen La Bamba. It's really good.
you've got Reagan Wallace, who plays Amy Harris, their daughter. The only thing that I
Amy?
found, yeah, that's what it said her name was Amy Harris.
Yeah, her name was Lindsey.
Oh.
So
I guess
let's
the
not
daughter
even come
just didn't want to
close.
be associated with it at all.
Well,
or
she's
something.
she's done interviews and stuff, so it's not like, and her name's all over court proceedings and stuff like that, so that's
Yeah.
kind of weird.
I've never seen this girl, but apparently she's been in stuff like Seventh Heaven, Malcolm in the Middle, and most recently Hellraiser Judgment, which is the latest Hellraiser movie that I did not know existed because there's about 20 of them.
Do they just like Saw? They just keep coming out with more and more.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, hell, I don't even know if Pinhead's in them anymore. It's just
Yeah, I don't either.
We've got Brett Cullen, who you might know from The Replacements, which I love. The Replacements. That's awesome.
I think I've only seen it once, and my memory's so bad I don't even really
Keanu
remember.
Reeves.
Yeah, I do remember him in that movie, but that's what it is.
Oh man, it's so good. That's one of my favorite sports movies ever. He was in The Dark Knight Rises, and he's also in another guilty pleasure of mine, National Security, with Martin Lawrence and Steve Zahn.
Oh my gosh, no.
I love that movie. I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
It is hilarious. He plays David Harris, our victim in this case. We've also got Kate Greenhouse, who has been in pretty much nothing that I recognized. The only thing I saw on there is something that I've passed by on Netflix, and I think it's actually in my queue. It's a movie called He Never Died. It stars Henry Rollins, and which is the only reason it's even in my queue, because Henry Rollins is just a badass, and you can't go wrong with him.
No, that's true.
This movie is, I can already tell that it's going to be wildly different than what actually happened, because first of all, you might as well call this Suburban Madness the Bobbie Basha story, because it's
it's basically like what, from her eyes or something.
Basically, it's
okay.
like the movie's about Bobbie Basha, and Clara Harris just happens to be one of the cases she's working on.
That's so weird, because like the whole story, I have hardly anything about Bobbie Basha.
Yeah,
other than the fact that Clara hired her. That's all I have, pretty much. So we'll wait to the end when we get to your movie review. But was that all you had for as far as the director and actors and all that good stuff?
Yeah, that's all I had.
In this true story, David Lynn Harris is our victim. He was born on November 4th of 1957. His parents were Gerald Evan and Mildred Harris. He grew up in Pearland, Texas. I'm not really sure where that's at. His father was a school principal. He really loved music, and he had actually taken up music again shortly before his death and bought an $89,000 Steinway piano.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an expensive piano.
It's a lot more expensive than the one that electric piano that's sitting in your room.
Yeah. I don't know that I would spend $89,000 on hardly anything.
I don't know,
maybe other than a house.
If I was rich, I probably would. I'd get me a grand piano.
I'd get a nice car.
Well, if you were rich, you could get a nice car and
they were both dentists, so I'm sure they had decent money.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. He had actually started taking piano lessons again, to start, trying to get back into playing piano. And his piano teacher had said that he was not arrogant. He was accomplished, but he never came across as arrogant. He was very nice and respectful. So that was what she had to say about him. He had attended Indiana University, where he majored in orthodontics, and he received a Master of Science degree in dentistry in 1991. And he later studied to be an orthodontist at the University of Texas Dental Branch in Houston. And that's actually where he met Clara. Although he was previously married, he met her for about 5 years. And that's when Lindsey was born, which they called Amy in the movie.
Yeah, Amy Harris.
Yeah, okay. Well.
Oh, and I said Kate Greenhouse earlier, but I didn't say what character she plays. She plays Rebecca Singer, also known as Lisa.
Okay, who's that? I'm not sure.
That's who he cheated on Clara with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the same lady. That's not the same name. We'll get to that later, though.
Okay.
Our perpetrator in this case was David's wife, Clara Leonore Harris. And I looked everywhere I could. I mean, I've looked in, legal records and everything, and I don't know what her name was before, because she was born in Bogota, Colombia on February 3rd of 1958. I'm not sure when she moved to the United States. I think it was in her 20s. And they married at the Nassau Bay Hilton Hotel on February 14th, 1992, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, they never specified the name of the hotel, but that it appears in the movie several times.
Yeah, they were raising 3 children. She had twin boys, and Brian and Bradley, that were born in 1998, and then Lindsey was living with them, and she was David's from his first marriage. Clara was a dentist, and David was an orthodontist. They owned a chain of successful orthodontist offices in Houston. Her office was in Lake Jackson, and it was called Space Center Orthodontics. David's office was in the Clear Lake area.
Oh, see, in the movie, they worked at the same place.
Yeah, it was kind of like a whole chain of offices. And I don't know if they had, I'm not sure exactly how all that. I don't know.
Okay.
They owned an upscale home in Friendswood, Texas, which is just outside of Houston. They also owned a house on Lake Livingston.
God.
I'm not sure where that's at.
Can I have more than one
Do you know
house?
where that's at?
No.
They also owned property in Colorado, which they probably went skiing and that kind of stuff. So after a while, David began having an affair with his former receptionist, Gail Bridges, not Lisa. Was her last name Bridges, though?
No, her name was Rebecca Singer, but she went by Lisa.
That does not even make sense. What the hell?
And how do you keep some of the people's names right and some of them not? I don't.
Yeah, if you're basing this off of an article, I'm pretty sure the article would have the. I don't even know.
Maybe the dude in the article just got their names wrong.
I really
They
don't.
didn't do any research other than
my
reading the
gosh.
article and wrote the movie about it.
I don't even know. That's hilarious to me.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Well, our movie actually begins with Claire running David over immediately.
Oh, that's just how they start the movie
That's
out?
how they started out.
Awesome.
She's wearing the worst wig job I've ever seen.
I did see that in a clip, and I was like, okay, she dyed her hair blonde, and I know that's not supposed to be a wig, but that's a terrible. I mean, they can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Even
like
on a
they just
small
got a
budget.
wig from a Halloween store and just put it on her head.
Right.
Like,
Even on a small budget, you can still do the hair better than that. That's ridiculous.
as she's running him over, they've got audio clips playing in the background of news stories. And one of the things I overheard was that she ran him over 3 times, but the movie shows her run him over about 20 times.
Oh, God.
Like, it just keeps repeating that she just keeps running him over.
That's like those movies where they blow stuff up and they have to show you the scene like 50 times to give you the full effect of, yes, we blew this up, we blew this up, we blew this up. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
She ran him over. She ran him over. She ran him over.
A
couple more times.
I don't know if the news clips were real or fake, but like I said, so I don't know exactly how many times she ran him over. How many times was it?
Yeah, that's a point of contention, and I'll get into that like when we get to the trial.
Okay.
There's really, I don't know that there's actually a clear-cut answer.
Okay.
But it wasn't 20, let's just put it that way.
Afterwards, she gets out of the car and she runs over to David and picks his head up and holds it in her hands. And she starts saying, "David, it's going to be okay. Please don't die. I love you." And
Even though I ran your ass over.
This a crazy bitch.
I don't know. Are Colombian women like this? I don't know. I don't know any Colombians. I'm
Don't
sorry.
cheat on a Colombian woman.
Right?
After this, it fades out into the intro of the movie that looks strikingly similar to the intro to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
What?
the zoom out over the town and with the cars driving around and everything.
Oh, Lord.
It's so bad. And it's playing this like generic ass doo 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 music. And it's just it was just, and it was almost like all B-roll footage, because after they did the town flyover, they were just showing people just walking down the street, just happy, nice, go lucky place. I mean, it was just, and I'm serious, it was all stock footage. It had to have been, because it was so fake looking.
Interesting.
And then after this, there's a 6 months earlier title card. And so far, from that point in the movie, the way that it's filmed, it is like a cross between a soap opera and a porno. I mean, it's just the way it's filmed is so terribly bad.
What year was this movie done?
2004. I mean,
I thought they could have done better than that, and that's 13 years ago.
the CW could have made a better movie.
Oh my goodness.
But it basically starts off in Bobbie Bosch's private detective office, and she's talking to her assistant with one of the most try-hard, worst Texas accents I've ever heard.
Yeah, I remember seeing the clip that I watched, and I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? Okay, let's go down to the ranch. You know,
Also, her assistant wears a cowboy hat almost the entire movie because, hey, it's Texas.
we all wear our boots and cowboy hats.
No, yeah.
I have a pair of boots. I do not have a cowboy hat. I've worn my boots like once.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I've worn cowboy boots to work because they were steel toe, and I would rather wear cowboy boots than lace-up boots.
Yeah.
But that is about it. I use them for work, and now I work in an office, so I don't need them anymore.
All right, listeners, back in the day, I did have the ropers and the I can't even remember the name of the jeans, but they were so starched they could have stood up on their own. And now I couldn't even get those over my freaking ankles, but yes, I did wear that stuff, and we went down to Northside Fort Worth and hung out, and I don't know. I don't even know what I was thinking. Anyways.
So she's talking to this lady who's complaining that her husband is cheating on her. She's upset and crying, so Bobbie offers her a cookie, and the lady refuses, and then she says, but my mama made them. And she still refuses, but then her assistant pipes up and says, here, well, I know you're upset, so why don't you have 2 of them? And then the lady just holds her hand out, and she just stacks 2 cookies in her hand. Like, I didn't want them before, but since you're going to offer me 2, okay, I'll take them.
Would you like a cookie? My mama made them.
Oh, here. Have 2 of them.
Then she asks the lady, she says, there's just one question I got to ask. Do you really want to know the truth? Because I always find the truth.
Oh, Lord. Really?
And it ain't going to be sugar-coated.
Is that really what she said?
Yes.
It ain't going to be sugar-coated, honey.
Not like her cookies.
God. Oh, Lord. Jeez Louise. There's like a ton of people in Texas, they could have just picked up the phone and called somebody and said, is this something you would say? And we'd be like, no, we would not say that.
It ain't gonna be
It
sugar-coated.
ain't gonna be sugar-coated. Jeez.
After this, it cuts to 2 guys whose wives are supposedly cheating on them with each other.
Oh, like, so it's girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's gonna get to the bottom of it. And it shows a terrible shot of the case being put on a computer. Like,
Matrix?
No, it's like it just pops up generic looking case file, magnifying glass, like literally says case file, I believe, up in the corner, and it puts a picture of one of the guys' faces on there, and it types out his name, super cheesy, super just oh, it looked like it was done in PowerPoint. It was so bad.
I could do a better PowerPoint.
Oh, and also, before the guys leave, they pick up a donut off her desk because she's just got donuts sitting on her desk at all times. Donuts and cookies. Just she's trying to give people diabetes.
I might go to her office. Well, that's like kind of.
But who just has donuts at all times? Would you like a donut?
You like a cookie or 2?
My mama made them.
Mama, no.
After this, the cuts are so bad. Like I said, it's the Bobbie Basha story featuring Clara Harris. I mean, it cuts so much back and forth between Clara and Bobbie that you can't even really tell what's going on half the time because you're trying to figure out, like, all right, does this have to do with Bobbie or Clara or what the hell's going on here?
And I'm guessing the Suburban madness is basically, this is life in the suburbs because she drove a Mercedes, not a Suburban, so it's not that kind of Suburban.
Yeah.
It's like, this is life in the suburbs where every wife, hires a private detective to find out if their husband's cheating on them.
Yeah, but she's the best. Bobbie Basha is the best. And I'll tell you why later.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So it shows Clara at David's dentist's office, and David is interviewing Lisa Singer, who is...
Gail Bridges.
Who, quote unquote, doesn't have any computer experience, but her kids have one, so she's going to learn.
Okay. Alrighty then. Yeah. I wish that could get me a job.
So David tells her it's not going to work out, and...
Sorry, lady. But she bent over and he sees her butt and was like, okay, you're hired.
No, it's worse than that.
Oh, God.
Because she basically... It'd be one thing if she dropped her purse. She literally throws her purse on the ground so obviously that she threw it, not dropped it.
Jesus.
So that everything fell out of her purse. And so then David helps her pick up the stuff that came out of her purse, and she's crying.
He's like, you're hired.
And as he's picking up the stuff, they start flirting with each other, and then David decides to give her a job.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just laughing still at the fact that it's not that she dropped it. She threw it on the ground.
Oh, my God. I didn't get the job. I'm going to throw my purse.
After this, Clara leaves the dentist's office to go pick up Amy / Lindsey from the airport because she's been away at college. Then
yeah, that's funny because in the real story, the girl's 16, so she's not quite college age.
Yeah, and the way that the movie's written and the way that she talks to David and Clara, it's like the part was written for a 12-year-old. Oh, Daddy, you're not gonna do that, are you?
Oh God!
Like it's bad. So now it cuts back to Bobbie and her assistant, and they're doing a stakeout on Lisa Singer, who apparently is one of the lesbian ladies we talked about earlier. So it's trying to tie it all together.
There was something brought up in the research that I did that supposedly I think David thought Clara was having an affair with a friend, or it was. I don't even. I didn't look into it because I was like, that is just stupid. It has not a whole lot to do with this whole case.
They're following these ladies around, and for whatever reason, change clothes like 5 or 6 times during the process. Just like, oh, can't let her know that it's us. We got to change clothes again. Then it makes it. This movie has the weirdest cuts because it's literally Bobbie, Clara, Bobbie, Clara, Bobbie, Clara. It is so back and forth. It'll be 5 seconds of Clara and then like 10 minutes of Bobbie.
Isn't there like a certain format that certain types of movies, they have a certain format that you do this and not just, we'll just wing it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do Bobbie stuff, do most of the Bobbie stuff, then do a lot of Clara stuff, then cut back. Don't go Bobbie, Clara, Bobbie, Clara, Bobbie, Clara the entire freaking movie. It is so hard to keep up with. But it cuts back to Clara cooking and reading Horton Hears a Who to her twin boys, and David, because an elephant's faithful, 100%.
Oh, Lord, really? They had to throw that in there? Are you kidding me?
As she's reading the book, she starts reading one of the lines, and David comes home from work, and he finishes the sentence in the book. And
oh, come on. Really?
It cuts to them eating dinner, and David is talking about the interview with Lisa, and he's talking her up just a little bit too much. Amy / Lindsey then tells her parents that she also wants to be into orthodontics.
Right.
Then it cuts to cuts to David and Clara laying in bed, and Clara asks David to cuddle with her, and he starts rubbing on her until he notices that the kids are in the bed, so he ain't getting laid.
Damn it. Damn kids. Go put them in their own damn bed. Get them some cookies and some donuts.
After this, it cuts to Bobbie and her cowboy hat wearing assistant talking to the guys with the cheating wives. And she gives them her evidence, but one of the guys says they're going to need more explicit evidence if they're going to use it in court. And he starts describing...
Are they looking for explicit evidence, or are they looking for...
Hold on.
Like, material?
Hold on. Oh, this was probably the weirdest and worst part of the movie. As bad as the rest of it is. But they said, we're going to need more explicit evidence if we're going to use this in court. And he starts describing what kind of evidence they'll need. But she cuts them off and says, you mean like this? And just starts putting her hand between her assistant's thighs. And then she like gets in super close, like she's going to start making out with her assistant or whatever. But then it goes back to the guys. And they're like kind of getting googly-eyed on it. And so it seems like... But that was the thing. I couldn't tell if they just wanted either dirty pictures or they wanted to
evidence.
or if they wanted evidence to get a divorce or whatever. Like I literally did not know what they were going for.
I think they just wanted videos.
But that was it. Just wasn't clear. Like they never clarified it because it comes in later in the movie.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
But then it cuts to David talking to Lisa, and she doesn't have enough money for lunch, so he offers to buy her lunch, and she talks about needing mental help, and he grabs her arm and rubs it and smiles, and then everything is all better, apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
Then boom, at motel for sexy time.
Oh God.
Just straight to it.
Yeah, we don't, in the real story, I don't know like exactly when they started seeing each other and all that. I know that the little snippet that I saw was the part where, she had found out he was, or suspected he was having an affair, and she told him, you need to fire her because If you don't, we're done. And he didn't. So she fired her.
Yeah,
Clara fired the receptionist.
That happened in the movie, and oh man. After the sexy time, it cuts to David coming back home. Comes home late. Dinner's cold. And he goes to their bedroom, and once again, the kids are in the bed, and Clara asks David to come to bed, but he just walks away. Mm-hmm. He ain't into it no more. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the whole time, it's being narrated by Bobbie Bosch's terrible Texas accent over the top of it.
So they have to have narration on top of all
Oh, yeah, she narrates the whole movie.
Nice.
She's the narrator with that accent.
Yeah, and I don't know if maybe this is the same point, because what happened was they had an argument on July. It was the night of July 16th, 2002. I guess they went to bed pissed off at each other or whatever. And then the next morning they started arguing some more. And Clara asked David if he loved Gail, and he said he didn't know. I guess they fought a little bit, and then David finally told Clara, "I'll do anything not to get a divorce." She told him, "I want you to fire her, and we need to go to marriage counseling, and I want you to tell your parents, and I want you to tell our pastor, and all this stuff."
Yeah. Oh, I've got that. That's actually in the movie.
Oh my gosh!
Surprisingly,
part of the truth and the made up, based on an article story.
Yeah, based on an article.
This is based on an article.
It cuts to Bobbie's house, and I didn't really write a lot of what went down during this part because I didn't realize that this was the Bobbie Bosch story. So I didn't think it would be that important. But no, it's about basically her daughter wants to get married. But because
whose daughter?
Bobbie Bosch.
Oh.
And
she didn't show up in the real story at all, so I don't know where this came up.
I'll tell you where it comes in. So Bobbie Bosch's daughter wants to get married, but because Bobbie Bosch has been divorced 3 times because she's been cheated on.
Oh, she didn't do no investigation on her
well, that's
spouses before she got married?
Well, I guess not, but that's what I'm fixing to get into. Because she's been cheated on so much, that's why
she's a
badass private detective. Gotcha. She knows the signs.
Well, she should have figured it out after at least the second one.
Yeah, but so she doesn't want her daughter to get married because she knows that, she could get cheated on, blah, 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 whatever. And oh my God.
Maybe
it's going to lead into
guy.
some stupid shit.
Oh, God.
It cuts to Clara at this coffee shop where she overhears some hoity-toity bougie lady talking to her friends about getting cheated on. And so, man, everybody's getting cheated on in this movie. Just Cheaters, the movie.
Cheaters is filmed in Dallas, right?
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah, it's from Dallas.
Wow. Not hard to believe, though. Cuts to David at the hotel just after... Yeah, and I'm telling you, these cuts are so crazy. These cuts...
Okay, this isn't the night that it happened, right? Because I've still got some stuff leading up before that.
No, I guess this is after it. This is after it happened. This is when they're banging again, I guess.
No, I mean this isn't like the night that everything went down.
No.
Okay.
No. This is. I've got so much more god awfulness to tell.
I'm gonna pick some more Lifetime movies for you.
Oh, it's like I'm telling you, these cuts, man. It's just because 1 minute Claire's at a coffee shop, next minute they're at the hotel banging again, like rolling around in the sheets and stuff. And after they roll around in the sheets for a while, she lets out, "I love you." And so,
are you gonna leave your wife?
Are
you gonna leave your wife for me?
She's crazy. And he just kisses her to shut her up.
She ain't as crazy as his wife.
No, but
obviously.
Yeah, but he just kisses her to shut her up so she doesn't have to.
Shut your mouth.
Then it cuts back to Bobbie. Imagine that. Apparently Bobbie has pull at the local police station because when she walks in, everybody fucking comes to a screeching halt. Oh, hey, Bobbie's here. Watch out. What's she need?
Oh, God.
And Bobbie says, "I need everything on the guy that's going to marry my daughter. Tickets, breaking and entering, murder, anything."
Yeah, even for a private investigator, I think cops would be like, "Yeah, good luck with that."
Yeah. But Well, and I take that back. When she walked in, they were a little hesitant at first because she said, "Hey, I need something," and all the ladies in the police department were just turned around and looked at her, and I guess because it's Lifetime, everybody's ladies in jobs or whatever. There's no men police.
It's Police Lady USA.
Yeah, but they look at her like, "Oh, we ain't got time for you" or whatever.
Who's this bitch?
Yeah, and then, but she says, "I need info on the guy who's gonna marry my daughter," and then everybody goes and screeching halt. We gotta figure this shit out. Nobody's messing with Bobbie Bosch's daughter.
Oh Lord.
It cuts to the terrible case file computer animation again. But this time, it's the wife of one of the guys from earlier saying that she thinks he's cheating on her.
What?
One of the quote-unquote lesbian ladies that the two guys from the beginning said that their wives were cheating on each other. The lady that's not Lisa in the lesbian relationship comes to Bobbie saying that her husband's cheating on her.
Oh my God.
This movie's terrible.
You know, the story in and of itself is crazy enough to not have to embellish, a whole lot of what's going on.
The lady asks how she would know if her husband was cheating on her, so Bobbie begins describing what cheating looks like, and it fades in and out, showing David doing all of
because
these
nobody can figure out your husband's saying he's going to stay late for work, and he goes on business trips a lot.
She said, well, when they start working out and sneaking off to make calls and extended computer time. Literally extended computer time.
Okay.
That's the exact words used.
That don't make no sense.
This whole time... and Lisa's there with the lady as she's saying that, which Lisa is...
So this is Gail Bridges.
Yeah.
The lady that David was cheating on his wife.
Yeah,
with.
she's with the other lady at Bobbie's office, and the whole time Bobbie can't help but recognize her from somewhere. And apparently this is 6 months later, but
when
they didn't
when the
specify,
affair started, or
they didn't specify. They specified the 6 months earlier after the crash, but they never specified when they came back to 6 months later, right before all the stuff went down. Okay. They never established that. So the reason she thinks she's so familiar is because 6 months ago, these dudes came in saying their wives were cheating on them with each other. And
she was one of them.
Yeah, and so that's why she recognizes her. But without knowing that this is 6 months later, that's a little bit confusing.
Yeah. I would say so.
Later on, it cuts to Lisa and the other lady talking about Lisa's new man and how wonderful he is, except he's married and has kids, talking about David. Then it cuts to the dentist's office where Lisa and David are flirting, and they get busted by somebody, but apparently everybody at the dentist's office knows they're flirting.
Yeah, so here's where we get to the part where, they were arguing the night before, they go to bed, the next day they get up and they're still arguing. Clara had told David, I want you to fire her, all this stuff. And so Clara goes downstairs where Lindsey / Amy, right? Amy,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
was making breakfast and started to tell her about the affair. And Lindsey tells Clara, I already know. Everybody in the office knows. Yeah. She's like, what? And so then Clara runs upstairs and smacks David in the face.
This is in the movie. I got this.
And so David grabbed Clara's arm and threw her down on the floor.
That didn't happen.
And so Lindsey runs upstairs and yells at her dad, what are you doing? She just found out you're cheating on her. What are you doing to her? And so he says, y'all are just perfect. I'm leaving. You're never going to see me again.
It was a little different, but sort of the same. This whole scene. Oh my God. So
I think this is part of the snippet that I saw.
It is. But the way it starts out, David is in the bathroom shaving in his swimming trunks for some reason.
Oh my God.
But wait, Amy.
Oh, wait, there's more.
Yeah, wait, there's more. Amy / Lindsey walks in, and so he wraps a towel around his waist because he doesn't want to be indecent. Doesn't want to show off them swimming trunks.
You can't see me in my Speedos, honey.
No, they were literally like board shorts, swimming trunks, not Speedo.
Okay, so I guess you were supposed to, suspend the truth and imagine that he didn't have those on or something.
Yeah, I guess. Like, oh, he's actually naked, but even though he's got swimming trunks on. But he doesn't want to be inappropriate, so he puts that towel around his waist. Amy/Lindsey says that she knows David is cheating on Clara. And this was the part where the writing makes her seem like she's 13 years old, not in college. But while they're talking in the bathroom, Clara overhears the accusation and comes in and smacks David across the face and tells him to get the hell out of the house.
You son bitch. Although she probably, I don't know, she probably had a little bit of a Colombian accent. Did she just speak with a Southern accent or Colombian or, Hispanic?
It was weird. I don't know. It was sort of Latin American sounding, but it wasn't Southern. I can tell you that much. I just don't know what the hell it was.
It was a mix.
Oh, so after she kicks him out of the house, the next day they're at work, or she's at work, and he comes up there, and he's trying to say, oh, please forgive me. He'll do anything. Just don't divorce me, whatever. And so she tells him, okay, take my car in for repair and be home for dinner.
Yeah, she told him a little bit more than that, about you're going to tell your parents, you're going to tell the pastor, you're going to tell everybody.
Oh, and here's another one of these beautiful cuts back to Bobbie. Bobbie and her assistant actually got a break in their case.
Uh-oh.
The casserole is in the oven.
We're going to play that for you.
The casserole is in the oven.
Let's brown it.
Oh my god.
They're following the husband of the lady from earlier, and this part is this whole movie's dumb. This whole movie is dumb.
I'm sorry, that's just the way that the Texas True Terrors works.
But they're following the husband of the lady from earlier, who was the guy from the beginning of the movie, or who was one of the guys from the beginning of the movie, saying that his wife was cheating
with another woman.
Oh, it's so convoluted. Anyway,
except for they were kind of happy about it.
Yeah,
because they wanted video proof and okay.
But I don't know. They're following this guy, and they decide to pull up beside him, like when you follow somebody, you kind of follow them, right? You don't.
Well, yeah, you don't let them know you're following them.
Yeah, and you also don't do it in the most inconspicuous black fucking like rape van. Like. Pulls up literally next to his car, and then Bobbie looks out the window and goes, huh, is that him? Is that the guy from earlier? And the assistant says, yeah, he hired us like 6 months ago. I thought she was the best. How the hell does she not remember this guy? And how does she not know who he is to begin with, because she's supposed to be okay, how do you follow somebody you don't know who it is? How do you follow somebody you don't know their face or their name?
You don't. Yeah, I don't know.
What?
Simply the best.
Oh man.
But not really.
Oh, like just how did she not? Oh, this movie is bad. Then it cuts to David bringing home flowers, except he walks in and David's parents are there, and Clara's told them everything.
Yeah, I don't know if that happened. It might have. I don't know. I didn't see that anywhere in the research that I did.
They sit down for dinner with his parents, and Clara forgives him, and so does his parents, but Amy/Lindsey, not so much. By the way, at this point, I'm halfway through the movie. Mm-hmm. Clara has had zero interaction with Bobbie.
I thought she hired her.
Zero so far. Halfway through the movie. All right, and then we cut back to Bobbie. Again, I'm telling you, this is the Bobbie Boscha story. Mm. That's all it is. We cut back to Bobbie. She's riding a lawnmower, spying on the guy from earlier, and he starts walking past a bunch of cheerleaders, and he just starts doing like a little jig, like dancing past them, like, hey, how's it going? Like being... it was almost like that dance from Spider-Man 3 when Peter Parker's trying to be cool and walking out. Then he starts making eyes at the cheerleading coach. I mean, goo-goo eyes.
And who's this guy?
This is the guy or one of the guys from the beginning of the movie.
Why are they bringing in people that don't have nothing to do with the story?
You are asking.
Because I guess, well, if it's the Bobbie Boscha story, then I guess,
Yeah. But that's it for that scene.
Okay.
That's it for that scene. And then it cuts back to the dentist's office.
Nice.
Clara calls Lisa into her office to fire her. Lisa, again, being
Gail.
Okay.
Gail Bridges.
After this, we cut to the Harris family at church, which is the same church that Lisa/Gail also happens to attend.
Okay.
And the entire sermon is suspiciously
come
about
on.
judgment and evil doings.
Really? It's always topical, isn't it?
Infidelity.
Oh my God.
oh,
Come
man.
on. Come on, man.
After church, Claire and David decide to go to a bar.
Oh, yeah,
And-
because that's where you want to be.
well, it's the bar at the hotel.
Oh, that's like the one that they got married at, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this bar, and
which
but-
is a really ironic, twist to the story.
yeah. Well, and also David took Lisa there to the same bar before that,
Yep.
and basically he tells Claire at the bar that he's just not attracted to her anymore, and so she needs to work out.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll get here. Oprah did an interview with
Ooh.
Clara Harris.
Oprah.
Yes, that's one of my sources. Oprah. Yes. So basically what happens was she began an all-out campaign to save her marriage. And so supposedly she took David to a romantic piano bar. Well, it didn't say it was at a hotel. Didn't say where it was. And so she asked him what was so attractive about Gail. He told her she had 0 body fat and that having sex with Gail was a dream come true. And they had sex like 3 times a day. And Claire was like, well, I'll double that.
That's a bold ass shit to say, man.
Oh, shit.
God damn.
So Clara hires a personal trainer. She got a membership at a tanning salon, and she planned to have her nails and hair done every day.
Wow.
I wish I had the money to do that. She put down a deposit at the plastic surgeon's office to get a breast augmentation and get liposuction.
This stuff was in the movie.
And I don't know if it was like that day or the next day, she called her office and told them, I'm retiring and I'm dedicating myself to my family.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, I can pick up from there because this is where in the movie it cuts. Well, before this, actually, Clara goes back to the coffee shop that she was at earlier for about 5 seconds. And she's eavesdropping on those weird bougie ladies again. But afterwards, one of the ladies just walks up and hands her a card for Bobbie.
So this is where, because this is what I have too, is that right, like shortly after this is when she hires Bobbie Basha.
Yeah.
And the name of the agency, did they tell you what it was in the movie?
Oh, I think they did. I can't.
Blue Moon Investigations. And for those of you that are old enough to know, it was from the show Moonlighting with Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd. So if you're as old as me or older, I'm not telling you how old I am, then you'll know that. But that's where they got the name from, so they're, trying to steal from that show.
Okay. But anyways, this random bougie lady just walks up and hands her a card for Bobbie Basha, because I guess everybody...
Oh, so it wasn't even Bobbie Basha, it was just some other lady was like, well, she helped find my husband cheating on me.
Yeah, here you go.
So you need to use her.
Yeah.
Like she didn't already know her husband was cheating, but I guess she wanted proof.
I guess after this, Clara goes back to the dentist's office, and this is where she starts packing up her things, because she can't work there anymore. She can't be around that place.
I'm retiring, bitches.
Afterwards, she asked her daughter to go shopping, or not her daughter, Amy/Lindsey.
Stepdaughter.
Yeah. Then goes to the plastic surgeon's office to talk about liposuction and a boob job and pretty much everything David said about her not being attractive.
She gonna get down to 0 body fat. I'm sorry, but there's not a whole lot of people with 0 body fat.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure liposuction, doesn't that leave like really bad scarring too?
It can. I know it's hard to recover from. You have like giant bruises and stuff all over you, so I don't know. I'll let you know when I get it done.
Yeah.
Once I get my career going again and get some more money.
All right. Back to Bobbie.
Bobbie Boucher. No, sorry, Bobbie Basha.
Yeah, Bobbie Boucher. Dabadoo. Oh wait, no, that's what the hell's that movie? Billy Madison.
Yep. Was that Billy
Shampoo
Madison?
is better. No, conditioner is better.
What was the Bobbie Boucher one?
That's Waterboy.
Oh yeah.
One of the better. That's actually one of the highest grossing sports movies of all time.
Dude, if I
think it's the highest grossing sports movie of all time.
Interesting. If I could live anywhere other than Texas in the U.S., I would probably move to Louisiana. But then I'd probably have to end up in one of those little scooters and be having to scoot myself around because I'm so fat from eating all the fatty food and drinking all the daiquiris.
I have not been there. I've been as far east as Tyler, and I don't want to go any further east because working in surveying, I'm working outside constantly, and in Tyler during the summer, it can be 80 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you are drenched in sweat.
Yeah, when we went to New Orleans a couple years ago, it was, I'm thinking, it's only going to be 90 degrees. It's fine. No, not with humidity at 90%. We were dying.
Yeah,
in Texas,
it's like,
the humidity is high, but it's not that high. When it's 90, it's nice. No, we were like, let's get back to the hotel in the air conditioning.
Yeah, it's like walking through mist.
Yeah, but I still like it. It's a really cool city, and as long as you stay off of Bourbon Street, well, just go there to get your daiquiris and then, get on another street. But it's cool. It's a cool place to go.
After being at the plastic surgeon, Clara is back at home trying to be sexy for David.
Oh, so she actually went to the plastic surgeon?
Yeah, she went and talked to him.
Because as far as I could see, she never actually got it done. She had put a down payment and.
Well, she didn't get it done. She just went and got a consultation.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened in the real story.
Well, she gets back home and she decides to wait for David. She sets up a romantic night and she's wearing this black leather getup, which I don't ever want to see Elizabeth Pena in a black leather outfit ever again.
Oh my goodness!
But just as disinterested as I was, so was David. But he goes ahead with it anyways, and they still commence to banging.
Oh Lord!
Then afterwards, we cut to Clara at a hair salon with Amy/Lindsey getting her hair done, and when it's done, she comes back out and her hair is blonde.
But it's like
This is where the god awful wig comes into play.
It's like you couldn't have dyed your hair for the frickin' movie.
She wanted to be blonde like Lisa.
Dye it back.
After this, we go back to Bobbie once again.
Oh, Bobbie.
Bobbie. They're at her daughter's bridal shower where basically her daughter kind of sneaks off for a minute for whatever reason, just starts rummaging through Bobbie's drawers, and she just so happens to find in the top drawer the case on her fiance that Bobbie has.
How could you, Mama?
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. It's, oh my goodness.
Hey, I love him. He's my boyfriend. We gonna get married.
Then they fight and get mad at each other, etc. Then it cuts back to David playing with his kids, and Clara shows up with her new hairdo/wig. But he tells her he's going to go have dinner with Lisa one last time because he needs to make amends.
Okay, so in the real story, what happens at this point is that she had talked to David about, them getting their stuff situated, and she said, I want you to break things off with Gail/Lisa. And she wanted him to call Gail, but he wanted to do it in person. He's like, oh, I got to see her to be, I can't be calling her or texting her or whatever to tell her it's over. So instead of going to a restaurant to break things off, he went to the Nassau Bay Hilton Hotel.
Yep.
Where they had actually gotten married and had their reception.
Yeah. By the way, at this point in the movie, there is 20 minutes left in the movie.
Really?
And Bobbie has still not come into contact with Clara. There's 20 minutes left, and they haven't even spoken.
Nice.
And I take that back. There's 20 minutes left, and now she's just finally meeting Bobbie.
Well, and here's the thing. In the actual story, it wasn't even Bobbie that was doing the spying. It was, she had an investigator under her.
Yeah, her cowboy hat wearing assistant.
in the real story, her name was Lindsey Ann Dubeck. So we got two Lindseys in there.
Anyways, with 20 minutes left in the movie, she finally meets Bobbie. She proceeds to tell Bobbie the whole story, and during this entire interaction with Clara, I guess Celia Ward forgot to use her southern accent because it's gone. During the whole conversation, it's gone. She's just talking normal.
If you're in Texas, your southern accent never goes away. Just kidding. It just depends on who you're around. I mean, I know I have one, but like I remember, when I was working, me and my boss would try to out Southern each other, and it would just get like during the day it would just get worse and worse, and we're like, "You're country, no, you're country, no, you're country, no, you're a hillbilly," So
Y'all are dorks.
Yeah, we were.
Then Bobbie proceeds to track David down. She films him leaving work, and then it makes a little weird cut to Clara pacing back and forth, and then goes right back to Bobbie following David. David meets with Lisa at the hotel bar to tell her that he won't leave his wife for her, but he still wants to bang one last time.
Of course.
He then talks about Clara lovingly and says how much he respects her, and Lisa asks him, "You left her at home to come tell me that? Like, that means anything?" And
well, he wouldn't pick up the phone and call her and tell her, so there's something there.
yeah, and
I don't know.
So he just says, "I love you."
Uh-oh.
But he's not going to leave his wife for you. So he didn't love you that much.
But that's usually how it is, and the women are like, "Oh yeah, said he's gonna leave his wife." Yeah, no, he's not. Because if he leaves her, she gets half of his shit.
This whole time, Bobbie's at the bar spying on David and Lisa / Gail. But while they're at the bar, Clara calls Bobbie, which Bobbie told her not to do before. She said, "Do not contact me until the investigation is concluded," etc.
Yeah, and that actually kind of, something like that did happen. But it was kind of the other way around, where it was like, they called her and were like, "Don't worry about anything. We'll give you an update in the morning." And she was like, "Oh, fuck that. I'm coming down there now."
Yeah.
So.
Well, she asked Bobbie where David is because basically she already knows, but she just wants confirmation.
Yeah.
But it's clarified by the music in the background, which she recognizes because they used to go there all the time. She could hear it over the phone in the background.
Okay, so they played the same music there all the time?
I guess they played the same song over and over.
Because they were like married for 10 years, so they just played the same song for 10 years straight.
It's like that Family Guy skit where at the cantina on Star Wars, and they're playing do 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 do, and they finish, and he goes, "Anybody got any requests? Play that same song."
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Oh, yeah. Clara comes to the hotel, and she goes inside and basically busts David and Lisa coming out of the elevator from being up in their hotel room, getting it on.
Yeah, that actually did happen. And like I was saying, the private investigator, Lindsey, not Bobbie, because I don't know what Bobbie was doing, but Lindsey was the one that was actually spying. And she called Clara to let her know that David and Gail were at the hotel. But she told Clara, "Be patient. We'll get you a full report tomorrow." Clara was like, "Oh, hell no." So she grabs Lindsey, the stepdaughter, and jumps in the car and goes to the hotel.
Yeah. Basically, like I said, as soon as she walks into the hotel, they're stepping off the elevator. So she's got awesome timing, I guess.
Well, and what actually happened was they went to the hotel, went to the desk clerk, and the desk clerk was like, "I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have him here." But the reason is because David had paid cash and he didn't sign in. And so Clara ran to the parking lot and found Gail's car. She had a Lincoln Navigator, and she grabbed the windshield wipers and bent them. And was like, "Oh, hell no, bitch." And she grabbed her keys and keyed the side of her car, and she had a heart-shaped bumper hitch cover that she broke, and then she started to key the word adulterer into the side of her car.
None of that happened in the movie. Just Clara, once she walked in and caught them stepping out of the elevator, she just tries to beat the shit out of
Yeah, it was.
Lisa.
Well, I mean, it got to that, but what happened after that was Lindsey calls David and says, "Hey, the twins are sick, so you need to get home." And that's when they go into the hotel and see them coming out of the elevator together.
And Lindsey is Amy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
I mean, why change the names? I mean, Google, Google will give you the real names.
Yeah, it ain't hard.
No.
After Clara tries to beat the crap out of Lisa, David breaks it up, but leaves with Lisa and just leaves Clara behind.
Yeah, that's not really what happened. I mean, partly because Clara did confront David and Gail as they came out of the elevator. She hit Gail in the face so hard that Gail's vision was blurred as she fell to the ground. And she grabbed Gail's hair and pounded her head into the marble floor of the hotel.
Damn.
Yeah. And she ripped Gail's blouse off.
Damn.
There were several men there and security guards that pulled Clara off of Gail, but she was able to push them aside and slam Gail to the floor.
God damn.
She even bit Gail's leg and called her a bitch.
Jesus.
I'm telling you, she was crazy.
Don't fuck with Clara Harris.
And then during the confrontation, Lindsey hit her dad with her purse, screaming, "I hate you. I hate you. I hate you.
I hate you, Daddy."
Right. So then the hotel security took Clara outside. And then, so yeah, they did walk out together. And while Clara was sitting on the sidewalk outside, Lindsey heard David tell Clara it's over. And that's when she just went ballistic.
Oh, see, that didn't even happen.
Hell no.
After she beat the shit out of Lisa /
Gail,
she just straight up walks back to the car and runs him the fuck over. That was basically it. Like, I've had enough of this shit, and just goes back to the car and comes and runs him over.
Well, based on Lindsey's testimony, because she actually ended up testifying against Clara grabbed Lindsey's arm after David told her it's over, and grabbed her and said, "Let's go." And they got in the car, and when she pulled out of the spot, she got in her Mercedes. It's a Mercedes S430. If you want to look it up, I'm not sure exactly what it looks like. It probably looks like every other Mercedes out there. She aimed her Mercedes at David and told Lindsey, "I'm going to hit him." Just like, "I'm going to hit him."
Yeah, fuck him.
And so she stepped on the accelerator and went straight for him.
And actually, an SC430 is a pretty nice car.
Is it?
Yeah. In the movie, after she runs over David, we get a scene of Bobbie watching in horror in the background. Then there starts a montage of newspapers and reporters and news clips, and basically it's all being narrated by Bobbie in her terrible
Texas
Southern accent. Yeah. Then we cut to the extremely short courtroom scene, and I'm talking 5 seconds. Like, judge guilty, 20 years. Like, basically.
Okay, before we get to that, then what happened was when she hit David, he put his hands on the front of the hood, and according to Lindsey, Clara had absolutely no expression on her face. She was like, "I'm running this fucker over." And Lindsey said that she circled around, ran over him again, and there were some that were witnesses that said she ran over him as many as 5 times.
Well, is it 3, 5, or 10?
Or 20. I don't know. Once the Mercedes stopped, Lindsey got out to help her dad. But first she went around to the car and hit Clara. She was like, "Bitch." So then Clara ran over to David, kneeled down, saying, "I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what pretty much happened that night.
The only thing else that happened in the courtroom that was in the movie, other than, she was sentenced to 20 years, Bobbie says the lawyer, prosecutor, the one that's against her,
the state,
used the argument of, why didn't Clara do what every other woman who's been cheated on does? Take him to the cleaners.
Well, because she had money anyways. I mean,
yeah,
she was a dentist or orthodontist or whatever, or she was a dentist. She had money.
At this point, Bobbie's narrating. She kind of sympathizes with Clara as it shows her being taken to jail because Bobbie's been cheated on several times.
She didn't the day after, because so Clara was arrested that night at 9:00, and she was booked in at a little after midnight. Her bond was set at $30,000, which of course she was able to make because they had a lot of money.
Yeah, and I mean, what is it? 10%? 1%?
I don't know, but it probably wouldn't have mattered. Cheap. They were millionaires.
Yeah.
So the next day, because Bobbie Basha had actually recorded the incident on her video camera.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't real clear. So
of course not.
Yeah. So Clara called Bobbie Basha the day after and wanted a refund because the surveillance wasn't finished after David was killed.
Oh my God.
She was like, "I want my money back." You didn't finish the job.
I'm fixing to go to jail, but I want my refund. Yeah,
exactly.
Now it cuts back to Bobbie's daughter, who decides that she can't go through with the marriage anymore because she's become cynical like her mother
Oh,
about
good
marriage
grief.
and blah, blah, blah. So she can't do it. Then it makes these little cuts are so short and are so out of place. It's, oh my God, it's awful. Because now it cuts back to Clara being in a cell for like a second. And then it cuts back to Bobbie, who's being scolded by her current husband for being so cynical and ruining the idea of marriage for her daughter. So she comes and gives her daughter a pep talk and finally tells her she should go ahead and get married.
Okay.
And then after this, it cuts back to Clara in jail reading Horton Hears a Who to her twin boys. Again. Because remember, an elephant's faithful 100%.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Like, I guarantee you that's the only reason they picked that book is because it has an elephant's faithful in it.
I mean, they could have picked Goodnight Moon or, you know.
Yeah,
Give me a break.
After this, it shows Bobbie's daughter coming out of church, just married, everything's all happy. Then we get a little bit more narration from Bobbie talking about how she's changed her cynical ways and she doesn't hate marriage anymore. And then the movie fades out and it's over.
That's ridiculous. So what really happened was that Clara Harris was tried in Harris County in the city of Houston. I don't have a whole lot of information as far as the trial like the other ones. I don't have opening statements, closing statements. I mean, there's really not much to go over. However, the witness testimony that the state put on was the hotel manager, Evangelos Smiros. He testified that Clara ran over David 3 times. The front desk manager, Paul Garrett Clark, testified that Clara ran over David 3 times and then backed up over him for a 4th time. And then the night manager, Jose Miranda, testified that Clara ran over David 2 times. You know, who knows how many times
She ran over him a bunch of times.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing the video, and from what I saw, she at least ran over him 2 times. Yeah. She made a circle. It's like, oh, you're getting run over. So for the defense, they had witness Steve Irwin. Not that Steve Irwin.
Rest in peace.
He was an accident reconstructionist. And he testified that Clara could have only run over David once based on the evidence and his calculations and what all he did. He had a videotape that he made where he had put the camera in the center of the back seat and showing this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. However, the videotapes that he made were excluded from evidence because they were misleading and confusing to the jury.
I can imagine.
But he
I made some movies in my car. Like,
right?
Check them out.
But he did have posters that illustrated, you know, his opinion of where the Mercedes was and what happened, you know, and that was allowed to be admitted into evidence. So there were 9 women and 3 men on the jury. And evidently some of them must have felt for her because she actually got a lenient sentence under a finding of sudden passion by the jury. And the definition of sudden passion is it is passion directly caused by and arising out of provocation by the individual killed or another acting with the person killed, which passion arises at the time of the offense and is not solely the result of former provocation.
Basically where the whole crime of passion type thing comes
yes.
from.
And they deliberated for a little over 6 hours.
Yeah.
And
honestly, I can understand that because it wasn't premeditated or anything. I mean,
granted,
you don't just run a motherfucker over, but
I mean, it was. But the thing about it is that premeditation, it can be a snap. It can be a second before, and they will consider that premeditation. So it's kind of, I don't know, but they gave her 20 years, a $10,000 fine. The 20 years was actually the maximum sentence allowed under sudden passion finding. And that actually, if they hadn't decided on the sudden passion thing, that would have been the minimum that she would have gotten was 20 years. But she still went and appealed her conviction. The judge said, sorry. You know, she tried to say that because the videos weren't entered into evidence that she didn't get a fair trial. And the judge was like, nope, sorry. Your, conviction is affirmed.
Yeah, you can get off for 8 good behavior.
And so during the time of the criminal trial, her in-laws, David's parents, Gerald and Mildred, actually supported her during the criminal trial and loaned her $70,000 for her legal bills.
You killed our son, but here you go.
Yeah,
We'll help you out.
Again, there are these good Christian people that believe in forgiveness to a certain extent. Because after custody issues arose with their twins, and after a settlement that Clara had gotten from the state, they had a falling out. They're like, oh, hell no, she doesn't deserve anything. And so they actually sued her in a civil trial for wrongful death. And they were seeking compensation for loss of companionship, pain and suffering, and loss of their son's financial assistance in their old age, because David had promised that he would support them financially as they got older. During the civil trial, Clara declined to answer any questions, invoking her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5th.
Jeez Louise.
I said 5th.
That's what she said during the whole time. And her attorney actually told her not to answer any questions so that she could avoid damaging her chances at possibly overturning her murder conviction. After the trial, the civil trial, or actually this was right before, I guess, the judgment was rendered, the parents were asked, or the father was asked, if he had forgiven Clara Harris for David's death. Gerald said, quote, "That's a very difficult question to answer. I do not feel that she has ever told us or said to us, I killed David, and without repentance, I don't see forgiveness." They were like, no.
Yeah.
So and then the civil trial, the jurors deliberated 10 hours. It took them a little over 2 days, and they actually reached a unanimous verdict. David Harris's parents were awarded $1.875 million each, totaling $3.75 million.
Cool.
Clara was eligible for parole February 9th of 2013. And actually, when she was convicted, she was convicted on Valentine's Day, what would have been their 11th anniversary.
Wow.
Just like you stated earlier, where he was having the affair was at the same hotel, where all this took place. But yeah, the parole review process begins about 6 months before they're eligible for parole. They review the file and all that good stuff and get letters of support or protest. And basically, in April of 2013, she was denied parole.
Dang. Denied.
September of 2016, she was denied parole again.
Damn it.
And I did look on the website for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and it says the reason was, quote, "The record indicates the instant offense has elements of brutality, violence, assaultive behavior, or conscious selection of victims' vulnerability, indicating a conscious disregard for the lives, safety, or property of others, such that the offender poses a continuing threat to public safety."
Damn.
So they're like, oh no, she needs to stay in there a little bit longer.
Yeah, she crazy.
So as of September of 2017, she is currently in the parole review process. If she's not approved for parole, her projected release date is February 10th of 2023. Which is 5 years and 4 months from now.
All right.
She is currently housed in the Mountain View unit located in Gatesville, Texas. She is allowed to see her sons 2 hours every month.
Damn.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Lindsey, the stepdaughter, Brian and Bradley, they were each awarded $1.756 million. And Lindsey received an additional $350,000 from a life insurance policy of David's, where she was named the second beneficiary. Because Clara killed him, she doesn't get get to be a beneficiary. So the attorney for the estate said that David Harris had $6 million in life insurance policies, but about $3 million was earmarked as collateral against business loans for their dental practices, and then the remainder was what was split among the children.
Okay.
So as I was doing my research, there's a website that was out there. It's still out there, but it's like not being updated anymore. And it's called Friends for Clara.
Okay.
And it was updated until February of 2009. And the link will be in our show notes. And whoever these friends were, they made notes to say that Clara didn't have access to the internet. And so they were printing emails and mailing them to her. And then she would mail her responses and this and that. And in 2008, she sued her attorney, accusing him of promoting himself more than concentrating on her defense.
Wow.
And she alleged that he breached his fiduciary duty and violated Texas Deceptive Trade Practices and Consumer Protection Act.
I wish eye rolling could be audible.
I know. It was like, bitch, you freaking ran over your husband, okay?
Yeah, like, you ain't getting out of it.
Yeah.
Like, There's video of it.
And so she was seeking unspecified compensation for mental anguish and pain. Okay, like she didn't cause her husband pain when she ran his ass over.
Yeah.
So in February of 2008, the jury found that her lawyer did not breach his duty and ordered her to pay him $70,000 that she still owed him. And Clara, to this day, continues to say that David's death was an accident.
Right.
Even though she told her stepdaughter, I'm running his, I'm going to run him over. I'm going to hit him.
I'm going to hit his ass.
So that's all I got.
I guess we'll start my review for this movie. Not going to be a very long one. We'll go ahead and give this movie a quarter of a Texas star.
Oh, God. Wonder if we can get any worse. I'm going to have to do some searching.
I debated going down to an 8th or a 16th. This movie was so awful. I had to take a break halfway through just to take a breather.
And it was only like an hour and 20 minutes?
It was an hour and 20 minutes. I had to pause it halfway through to take a smoke break. Between the bad writing, poor film quality, and Celia Ward's ungodly Southern accent, this is way up there with some of the worst movies I've ever seen. I think I was getting suburban madness just watching it. Be glad that I watched this movie for all of you listeners out there, so you don't have to put up with the torture that is suburban madness. I'm going to go with a hard pass on this one.
Okay. You do not recommend.
No, absolutely not.
Do not recommend.
Don't even watch the trailer. Don't. Just stay as far away from this movie as you can.
Run from the movie. Run from suburban madness.
Oh man. All right. Well,
I'll let you do the first 5-star review we got on iTunes.
All right. Well, we've got a 5-star review from Joel H., host of This Week in True Crime History podcast. He says, already a fan. 2 episodes in, and I'm a fan. Craig and Maria do a great job of breaking down the Hollywood versus history angle of these stories. By the way, if I get another cat, I'm going to name it Mr. Diggles, just so Craig can laugh every time I mention it. And Joel, I actually listened to your Sid and Nancy podcast, and I heard that, and I did laugh. And I hope that Mr. Diggles, your imaginary cat, is doing well.
And, on Twitter, this is like totally a thing now, so we have to post fat cat videos and, fat cats coming through dog doors or cat doors or whatever you want to call them now. So that's a whole thing.
Our next 5-star review on iTunes comes from Purple_Roses3.
Sweet. Purple is my favorite color.
True Texas talent. I love this new podcast. As a native Texan, I know we have our fair share of crime, but Texas is often neglected on other podcasts as folks focus on California and Florida. This mother and son team fill the gap while adding some fun and talent.
Woo!
We've also got some Facebook 5-star reviews from Gina Headkey. Love this podcast, easy to listen to, and it's all about true crime in my home state, Texas. The speakers are super easy to listen to and understand and do their research.
And Gina is just like, she is so supportive of our podcast, and I'm so happy she listened. She's like, I love you guys, and we love her too.
Thanks, Gina.
And we have a Facebook, another review from Teresa Lynn Tabor, and she says, I count this among my top favorites. Great storytelling and details. Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you. We've got some comments on Podbean from Pete Lutz from the Potpourri Theater Audio Drama Podcast. Not a bad start. The two of you make a good team describing the crime and describing the film. Lots of points covered, and your voices are nice to listen to. Very important in podcasting. Thanks, and I'll keep listening. Thanks, dude.
And Teresa Tabor also left us a message or a comment on Podbean. And she says, I so remember the first time I heard this horrible story when it happened. I cannot understand the level of hate people have for another human. Thank you for giving him a voice for a top-notch podcast. And that was for episode 2 on Jasper, Texas, based on James Byrd Jr. And I'm right there with you, Teresa. I remember it too, and it was awful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate your listenership. We really hope that people keep going on iTunes, rating us, reviewing us. That's going to help us out a lot. It helps keep this thing going. It gets us up in the ranks. So we would really appreciate it. Even if you don't have an iPhone or you just hate iTunes, just download it just so you can rate us.
I'm right there. I downloaded iTunes to my computer and for the sole purpose of reviewing podcasts, and I do that. So
yeah, so
do us a favor.
Yeah, thanks. We would really, really appreciate it.
Some of the podcasts that I've recently found and have been listening to, Pleasing Terrors, I've actually been listening to for a while. Mike Brown, he tells stories about haunted places, creepy history, and forgotten folklore, and I really, really enjoy his podcast. It's very well done. Murder Road Trip, Haley discusses murder cases in her car and usually with a different passenger each trip.
Murder Road Trip is a true crime podcast where I, your host Haley, discuss murder cases in my car, aka the Mobile Beats Lab. Join me and my partner in crime, H.H. Gnomes, on the road. There will be games, mixtapes, and snacks as I make the research journey to murder scenes around the world. Make sure to check your back seat, and I'll see you at the next rest stop.
And Craig, do you have any podcasts?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I started listening to the No Sleep podcast, which is...
I have heard of that. Is it...
I actually used to read... It's a subreddit on Reddit called No Sleep.
Yeah.
Of just user-submitted...
Is it like creepypasta?
Sorta.
Okay.
It's just user-submitted horror stories, but they're told under the guise that they're true. You're not supposed to question them.
Yeah, isn't that what creepypasta is? Maybe I don't know what creepypasta is.
No, that's more meme-ish, I guess. But these
this is like Slender Man.
Sorta. But basically, it's just that they're under the guise that they're true. You're not supposed to question that they're fake or whatever. I mean, there's even people that go out of their way to Photoshop pictures and stuff to have quote-unquote evidence. But they took those and they took the most popular stories and turned them into an audio podcast.
Awesome.
It's really fun. It's really cool to listen to. They add music, and the music changes with the tone of the story. So it can start out with happy music over happy little narration, and as it gets creepier, the music starts getting slower and a little more creepy. And then when it gets into the really gritty stuff, the music gets pretty intense, and cool. It's really well done. Another one I've been listening to, I've only listened to the first episode, but I'm liking it so far. It's called The Boogie Monster, hosted by Kyle Kinane and Dave Stone. Kyle Kinane, you probably know as the narrator for pretty much everything that's on Comedy Central. All the in-between stuff, next up on South Park or, anything. Oh, okay. That guy. Oh. He is one of the hosts, and the other guy, Dave Stone, he does the voice for Master Shake on Aqua Teen Hunger Force, if you know what that is. I love that show. It's a hilarious cartoon. But it's pretty good. They talk about supernatural thfolklore. Sometimes they just bullshit about whatever. The first episode, they talked about Bigfoot and aliens, and I mean, they've got a pretty good chemistry, and you can tell they're friends and just like to hang out and talk to each other.
Awesome. And
I guess the last one I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to is Darkest Night. Pretty cool little audio drama podcast. It is almost like a horror anthology series that's written and produced really well. I mean, the audio quality kind of bounces around, but it's still really good. I like the way that they go about it. I mean, it's a very well done audio drama. It's not just because I've listened to some audio dramas that are basically it's like watching TV but looking away from the screen. Yeah. And I don't like those because you don't know what you're looking at. And that's what makes a good audio drama is being descriptive a little bit,
right?
And getting that across, and they do a very good job of that.
Yeah, that's why I think I'm gonna give that Pulpery podcast a try. I'm normally doing like nonfiction, but I'll give it a shot just to see. I mean, it's just like watching TV, I guess. Yeah. But I also watch a lot of nonfiction television. Yeah. So
yeah. But Darkest Night, really cool. It's got some. I don't know that I'd say celebrities, maybe character actors.
Mm-hmm.
Most notable so far, I've listened to 2 episodes, but he's been in American Horror Story. He was the burned man in the Murder House
Oh yeah,
season.
he was also in True Blood.
And he was in American Horror Story Hotel. He was it Liz?
Yeah, he was the bartender.
Yeah, the bartender who was a drag queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's in it. It's a pretty cool little show. I definitely suggest checking it out.
All right, you can find us on Podbean. That's who hosts our podcast, iTunes, Stitcher, and pretty much every other podcast app. We tried SoundCloud, but it was kind of a pain in the butt, so sorry.
If you have an Android, I like Podcast Addict. I think it's a really good app. It's got a lot of good options.
I do Pocket Cast, so...
Yeah, it's got a lot of good options for sorting your podcasts. Like currently the way I have mine set up is I have a bunch of different podcasts downloaded, and I have them sorted by date released and alternating. So it alternates between every podcast that I have downloaded by their date. And so I get all the podcasts in order, but I'm not listening to the same podcast one after the other, so it throws a little bit of variety in there.
I like to binge listen, so
I did that for a while, but I just decided to kind of break it up a little bit, get a little change in there.
Yeah, every once in a while in between my true crime, I throw in a little crime and sports or small town murder or dollop just to get some humor in there, because sometimes it could just get so depressing.
Yeah, that. And I know we don't like to talk about He Who Should Not Be Named, but Sword and Scale, I used to listen to that.
Yeah, me too.
And when it was good, man, it would just, you could lose faith in humanity so quickly.
Mm-hmm. But that's a lot of true crime. It's just people just do the most awful things.
Yeah.
To the least of us, it's just ridiculous.
Which I guess that's, one of the reasons I don't do a lot of true crime stuff, because it's depressing. Like, I want to have some faith in humanity.
That's why I gotta throw some comedy in there, every once in a while.
You gotta laugh.
Yeah.
Beginning this episode, we will now be on YouTube at youtube.com/Texas True Terrors.
As far as I know, it's our channel is Texas True Terror, so hopefully it'll show up there. If not, I'll post on Facebook or Twitter and let you guys know. So hopefully they won't pull anything down because of the news clips I put on there, but the music is all legit.
Also, you can check out our Facebook at facebook.com/Texas True Terrors. We have a group page as well for discussions. You can find us on Twitter at Texas Terrors. Our Instagram is Texas True Terrors.
We also have a website up now, www.texastrueterrors.com. You can go there and see our latest episodes, buy some merch, just check things out.
Yeah, you can drop us a message, leave your suggestions, questions, criticisms, comments, anything you want to say to us. Just let us know. We can use all the feedback we can get.
Absolutely. And we're supposed to be getting some magnets in, some more stickers in. If you're interested, drop me a message or drop us a message on Twitter or Facebook and with your address, and we'll get some things out to you.
If you'd like to email us, we can also be reached at texastrueterrors@gmail.com.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Are we done?
I think so. I'm Craig.
What about the casserole?
The casserole is in the oven. Let's brown it.
That's right. Let's brown this casserole.
Let's brown this casserole. We'll see y'all later. Thanks again for listening.
Bye, y'all.
Tell me about your mama.
I never beat you when you didn't deserve it, boy.